Hi everyone, Brian Tuck here. Welcome to the little used YouTube channel for Creative Confidential. You know, I really enjoy the audio only format, but I certainly recognize the power of YouTube as a platform. And I thought we would try and experiment with one of the older episodes, just putting it up here to see what kind of engagement we got. And the backstory is this. The episode that you're going to hear was recorded a few years ago with Carly Comando and Tom Patterson. Together, they are the rock band Slingshot Dakota. And Friday that just went by, I had bumped into them at an event in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, over at Arts Quest. And it was great to reconnect with them, first of all. Carly performed a couple of solo pieces, and she was terrific, of course. And I went back and listened to this episode on the way home. And this episode, if you are a creative person and you're not sure about how to maintain your uniqueness, your individuality, how to move forward, listen to this episode. Yes, it was recorded a couple of years ago, but there are so many nuggets of wisdom, and this is them, not me, but there are so many nuggets of information in here about how you can, as an individual, unique entity, as a unique artist, you can push forward and make your own way out there, because there's a lot of averageness out there to compete with. And I think the more true to yourself and the more unique and the weirder you are, probably the better off you're going to be. So the audio interview is coming after this in a minute, or in a couple of seconds rather, and enjoy. And if you like this, please share. And if you want to see content on the YouTube channel, drop a comment. I'd be glad to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. Also, you can check the audio podcast out on every platform: Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You know the drill. You guys know what to do. All right. Have a good one. Thanks again for checking it out.
You're listening to Creative Confidential with Brian Tuck. Brian is a social entrepreneur and attorney who focuses on startup companies, nonprofit organizations, and arts and entertainment law issues. Creative Confidential starts now.
Guests on the podcast today are members of one of the most promising indie rock bands coming out of Pennsylvania now. Earlier this year, they performed at South by Southwest, one of the largest indie rock festivals in the United States. In March, they were named one of the top 10 indie bands to watch by Rolling Stone magazine. Joining me this week are Carly and Tom from Slingshot Dakota. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So there's not many keyboard drum set duos running around these days. I can't think of any other band that has this instrumentation. How did that evolve?
Well, Slingshot Dakota used to have a standard formation in some kind of way. We started in 2003. In Long Island, that's where I'm from, and I was playing keyboard basically as a bass instrument back then. My friends Jeff and Pat were playing music together, and then for some reason decided they wanted me to join as the bassist, but on keyboard, because they knew that's what I played. Mm-hmm. And as time went on, Tom joined the band to replace our original drummer, and then as time went on further, our guitar player was unsure what he wanted to do with his career, if he wanted to do music or if he wanted to go continue teaching. So he ended up leaving the band, leaving me and Tom to decide if we wanted to replace him or continue on with each other. And we did our first tour as a two-piece and decided that it was way easier. So we kept on going with just the two of us.
Well, and maybe it's more, maybe it's more prevalent in sort of in the punk space to have it like I wouldn't call White Stripes punk, but that
Right.
seemed like to me at least as an observer, the first sort of big mainstream band that was composed that way.
Yes.
Usually the smallest you go is a trio.
Right. Yeah. We were, you would think punk, there's no rules, but even within the punk community, we were still the weirdos. Even though by definition, punk is doing whatever you want and it's going against the grain. Mm-hmm. As a two-piece, we were still almost fighting for our place to be seen as a punk band within the community that we grew up in. So, weirdly enough, Tom and I feel comfortable playing any kind of shows, whether it's a punk show, an indie show, a hardcore show, anything, because we've grown up around that kind of music all of our lives. So, we definitely have been standing out this entire time, even in Slingshot Dakota's first incarnation with the three of us, but then even more so with the two of us, because, people would start seeing me take my keyboard out and roll their eyes.
Right. They're like,
which I would think is funny because I'm like, this is punk by nature.
Right.
This is going against everything that your standard bands are doing. You've got two dudes on guitar, a dude bass player and a dude drummer. And here I am, a female keyboard player who's about to shred by putting my keyboard through all these different distortion pedals. Mm-hmm. And then I've got Tom, who's the most insane drummer I've ever seen play. And we're going to melt your face. So we've been at it. We've been kind of defying the odds, for a long time. But even within, the community that nurtured us, it was even hard. There.
Well, and the sounds that you, listening to your material, it's your keyboard sound is so gritty.
Yeah.
It does kind of cross over into that electric guitar space, that texture a little bit.
Yeah. Originally, in writing songs with Tom and writing with Slingshot Dakota, I play guitar, but I didn't want to play it for this band because I knew that I can get more leverage with an 88 key keyboard. I could get the bass notes and the melody. So I could basically have my bass guitar and my rhythm guitar all in one instrument and not have to have one more person join the band. So, we've worked really hard to figure out what works the best. But yeah, I chose to play that. And I also wanted it to be almost deceiving to people. Like I wanted people that were far away to not know what was happening. I wanted them to think that there was a guitar player and a bass player in the band. And then, after shows, people would say, where's your bass player? Or what were you playing? I'm like, oh, that keyboard right there. That, yeah. What pedals are you using? And then I tell them what I'm using. And I don't know. I think there's something really fun in that and defying expectations and being really creative, even in the instrumentation alongside writing songs creatively with the lyrics and so forth. But yeah, we've just been doing our own thing forever. And sometimes I'll let the keyboard be its natural thing. I'll play its road sound as is. And then immediately I'll, put on a pedal and make it a wall of noise. But it's really fun to me. I feel like I'm not someone that likes, I don't know what I like, but I feel like in music, especially in the live setting, I love being entertained. And I feel like with my own setup and with how Tom plays, I feel like, we kind of achieve that by being different. And I think that it's a strong point. I don't ever really think it's a weakness, and I just love it.
No, you can't say it any better than that. And I think if, we heard a little bit of Doreen, I think was the track on the beginning of the show. And one of the things that jumps out, if you see anything of your performances on YouTube, the energy that comes through the screen practically, because I think people hear, well, it's keyboards and drums. Well, it's probably more sedate.
Yeah.
It's more mellow.
Thing.
And Tom plays in a very, very rock style. I mean, it's super aggressive in its own way. And just the two things that they don't seem like they should go together, right. But it's terrific. Thanks.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the things. We played a hardcore festival a really long time ago when we were first in the beginning stages of being a 2-piece band. And there's a picture of 2 guys behind me with their arms crossed, like, you know, really tough guys, like not impressed. And I remember that picture, I feel like captured kind of the feelings that me and Tom are always dealing with, like people seeing us set up and being like, what is this? Like this quiet music doesn't belong in this kind of environment, which I think is another, you know, aspect of punk and hardcore where it's like, actually anything can belong here technically by your rules. But B, I also wanted to be like, just wait, you know? And so I would slowly take out my distortion pedals and line them up and then look at people looking really confused at each other. And then I used to just open up our set by playing a Fugazi riff to kind of let people know, you see a keyboard and you know, you see me and this other person here and you think we might be one thing. But then I would play Waiting Room by Fugazi or whatever other songs I would come up with at the time, just to kind of indicate in those first minutes of setting up, we're not what you think we are. Mm-hmm. We're playing a punk song on this keyboard. And then anyone that might have been turning around and kind of being like, whatever this is, I'm not interested, would immediately turn right back around. And those guys in the picture that had their arms crossed ended up being fans of ours that we've come into contact with over years. You know, we're at that show. And I said, I know, you're in the picture that we used for a profile picture for a really long time. Mm-hmm. Right. And they were really nice. But I remember at the time, like, you know, sometimes you could sense other people's judgments. And if anything, that would almost inspire me to go even harder as a musician. And those guys were 2 of those people.
Well, defying expectations is what it's all about. Yeah. Is what art's about, really, is kind of setting up whether it's a visual artist or music or plays or whatever, where you know the audience has a certain worldview and you're going to, do something to deflate that somehow. So coming up, we usually don't do a lot of date specific stuff because people may discover these episodes a lot, later on, but for this, we have to, because you have a lot of stuff right around the corner. So in July, you're starting a tour where in Washington, D.C.?
We're starting in D.C., yeah. We're touring with our friends in the band called Dikembe, and we're doing a 10-day tour with them. It starts July 18th, and it ends July 29th in Orlando, Florida. And then we have a really nice drive home. And we'll be playing Music Fest August 8th. And then we're also playing Square of Opposition's Anniversary Fest in, Merchant Square Mall in Allentown. And that's July 17th.
So we've got at least 10 shows in July. Yes. You're starting in D.C., and I think you're hitting, Philly, Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
Yep.
I can't remember. Chicago. And then
Nashville.
There you go.
What's left? Gainesville, Orlando, and Tallahassee.
And you have like 3 shows in Florida at the end of the month.
Yeah. Those are the band Dikembe is from Florida, so they've got a lot of friends down there.
And this is a good opportunity for us to prompt everybody. On the show notes, we will link to the band's website and you can get the tour dates. But if you want to go directly to the band's website, what is that?
Oh, it's being rebuilt right now.
SlingshotDakotamusic.com.
Yes.
SlingshotDakotamusic.com.
Yes.
Just like it is spelled, just like it is sounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. And then you're on Twitter and
we're
I'm
on
assuming
everything.
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And
everything else is just Slingshot Dakota. So Instagram tag, Twitter, everything, Facebook.
What was the genesis of the name? How did that come about?
Our first drummer just thought it was cool. There's
2 words together.
Honestly, there's no exciting story. Sometimes when we're feeling a little snobby, we'll make up a story, but we're in our home base and you guys are really nice, so we're not going to lie.
Yeah.
He thought it was cool, but now looking back on that, he came up with the best name because you can search it online and you're only going to find our band. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really thankful to Pat Schramm for creating this band name for us because when you Google search Slingshot Dakota or Twitter or anything, you find our band. You don't find much else. You maybe find the Slingshot Ride,
right?
Whatever that that slingshots you into the air.
Yeah.
Well,
or the Dodge Dakota pickup truck.
Yeah,
That's
but
it.
rarely. It's awesome. I'm so proud.
Well, it seemed like it was a character from an obscure film or short story or something that nobody...
That's where the lie comes in. We made up this elaborate backstory that Carly
don't say what it is, so if you ever want to use it again.
We'll work on it. We'll have a...
It's already in one interview already.
We'll have a first
But
draft of this story.
Our first T-shirt did have like a really cute... Oh, no, wait, that was Jeff's album. Never mind. I was trying to think that we had like a really cute drawing of something, but no. Yeah, no. He just thought it sounded cool, and I have to agree. It's a band name that both our friends and parents enjoy, which I feel like is hard to find a band name that appeases everybody, so
well,
he really
and
did
it
good.
sticks in your head immediately.
Yeah.
It
does.
has that intangible thing.
Yeah,
or
I think
whatever
that's
that
why
is.
we never changed it, because if you listen to our first record, which Tom isn't even on, and I'm on it, but I'm more of a backup singer than I am, the main singer. We've come such a long and different way from our first record. Our first record is called Keener Size, and that's me and the other two band members. And if you listen to that to Break, which is the last record that me and Tom put out, it's pretty much a completely different band. But, we've had this name for so long, and we made so much progress that didn't really want to give that up. So
Right. How many albums have
There's-
you recorded together as a duo?
3. And then there's one more record without him. So there's 4 in total.
3 with an asterisk.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
that fourth one, but we won't.
Yeah.
It doesn't really count.
we don't usually mention the first record just because
But it is I have to say, it's a really great record.
it's really
It's
great
like
record.
if that band trajectory kept on, it would have been just as amazing, I feel like, as me and
definitely.
Tom's version. It's very college rocky. It's more of like a softer indie rock, but man, it's real good.
Yeah. That's why I
My
joined the
friend
band.
Jeff is an incredible songwriter.
So in terms of your process now, songwriting, how do you divide the responsibilities, or how does that work?
Well, I think, we go about it many ways. I think when we're writing a record, what we'll do is we'll go into the practice space and we'll go in with, a couple of beers or whatever and just like relax. And in about an hour or two's time, we will just brainstorm all these different ideas. So we'll riff on some stuff. So we'll do like a fast song, and then I'll be like, okay, stop playing, play something slow. Like I'll immediately stop the brain cycle and then switch it, because what happens is if we start writing song ideas and then keep on that same tempo, we end up writing the same song over and over again.
Okay.
So we have this weird thing of coming up with an idea, recording it, and then completely switching gears. And I'll say, all right, Tom, play a slow drum beat, whatever it is. And there's times where we're not even writing for Slingshot. We'll end up just jamming out, just ideas just to kind of flesh them out. And then we'll kind of do that for a few weeks. And then I'll sit back with those ideas and feel them out and see what really, what has hooks in it, what sticks out, what's exciting to play, what's exciting to hear, or what is emotionally captivating in what we've played. And then I'll sit at home with those and start formulating songs around it. And then there's other times where I'll write songs in my head that are completely done. And I'll go to practice and I'll show them to Tom. And I said, okay, here's the drum beat. And I'll get behind it and play a really terrible version of what I need him to do. And then we'll do it that way. And then there's also times where he comes up with drum beats and then I'll just join in and figure something out. So they're all different. We have I feel like there's 3 ways. There's the organic way where we do it together in the practice space and just come up with a complete song. There's my version where I come up with it in my head and then kind of have it pre-written for how I want Tom to do it. And then there's the version where we just kind of jam out ideas and then kind of sit with those and see what works. But yeah. Is there any different way?
No, there's no set way. Yeah, just what you said.
We just try to be really relaxed. We know that from the past when I was living in New York and Tom was living here, we would only have the weekends to practice. And it puts so much pressure on us because we would have basically from an hour to maybe, if we were lucky, 3 hours to practice. And it was a lot of pressure on us to come up with really great creative ideas because you're thinking, if we didn't come up with anything, that was wasted time,
Right.
What do we do now? And so now we just do the opposite. We take all of that pressure off. And if we jam out for a night and nothing happens, we say, okay, well, at least we've fleshed out those bad ideas, or at least we know that we can do jam music somewhere and just, play around in an idea for something else. And then the next time we'll go back and sometimes we'll come up with a song immediately. So I think we just always need to take the edge off and go in with an open mind and open heart, and we just record everything and then
I was going to ask you whether you recorded all those. And
we do. We do the voice memo and then we do GoPro. Mm-hmm. So we have both to listen back on. And it's crazy because there's times where, we think we haven't come up with anything. And then a week will go by or we'll be on tour and I'll be lonely and I'll be missing home. And so I'll always listen back to the voice memo so I can feel, back at home and comfortable. And I'm like, oh, wow. This idea is awesome. Like for the last record we came out with, there was a song that we finished right before going into recording because we discovered that it was actually really, really, this song's actually really good. Well, I don't know why we haven't gone up with it.
Well, and having a little bit of time gives you a different perspective on an idea that may not have seemed good then, but now you're like, okay, that sounds
exactly. Or there's sometimes where Tom is in love with an idea that I'm not in love with, or vice versa. And then sometimes we come around and we decide that the song is great, that we're going to work with it. And then there's other times where we both we're like, well, let's can it. And that song idea exists. And if it's going to work, it'll come back. Mm-hmm. If it's meant to be, it's going to come back in some kind of format. So we try not to stress anything anymore. I think it works.
There you go. So the new record is coming out.
March 11th, it came out.
So the name of that recording is
called Break.
Okay.
It was recorded and produced by our friend Todd Scheid, who's in Wasurgis. Is that how you pronounce it? Mm-hmm. Wasurgis, Pennsylvania.
Right outside of Hellertown.
Wasurgis.
It's a tiny little village town.
One intersection.
Yeah.
One intersection in a recording studio.
Yes.
It's a one recording studio town. That's
Yep.
Yeah. He's incredible.
Yeah.
And that recording process was great.
He also teaches drums at California Drum Shop too.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Todd Scheid, for all who are listening. He's the best.
He was in a band from Philly called Adderbat. He played drums for them. They were an awesome indie rock band. Yeah. That's the Todd Scheid trivia.
So do you want to play a little something from the record?
Sure. Do you want me to talk about what I'm going to play?
We're acting like we have not prepared this, but we've
prepped it a little bit.
Why don't you set this up for us?
I'm going to play a song that's called Too Much. And as I've mentioned, I prefer to play our music as a band on piano because I feel like it's more challenging and it's more exciting. And I feel like a lot of people see female piano players and they just associate them with the piano is a very female instrument, and I'm trying to make it punk and I'm trying to make it badass. And is that okay to say?
Of course.
I don't know.
It wouldn't be very rock and roll,
right?
If we
I know.
Swear, so you can do whatever you want.
So I've worked really hard to kind of make this setup really assertive and confident, but I also love playing guitar. Mm-hmm. And so I like putting on our records something that showcases that as well. So I'm going to play a song called Too Much. It's written about a friend who was going through some tough times and just really wanted someone to be there for her.
Okay.
So that's what the song's called.
Right on. And then while you're getting ready, I'll just to remind everybody, if you have any questions about past episodes or if you have any suggestions of guests that you would like to see on the show, you can reach me on Twitter. The podcast is on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. There's about 100 ways to reach me. So use one of those channels, and or you can email me at Bryan, Bryan, at creativeconfidential.net. Here we go.
All right.
Just a kid when my life turned upside down. All those things I did are coming right back around. Can I get a minute? A storm inside my mind. Your baby's growing up, but I'm still yours. I feel you've given up and you've shut all the doors. Is it too much for you to be around for me? Is it too much for you to be around for me? Pick up the phone. I wanna have a conversation, but nobody's ever home. I've never felt so alone. If I don't have you, I feel my heart might explode. Your baby's growing up, but I'm still yours. I feel you've given up and you've shut all the doors. Ooh. Is it too much for you to be around for me? Is it too much for you to be around for me? Is it too much for you to be around for me? Is it too much for you to be around for me?
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Thanks.
Wow, we got to do more of that. That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's rare that I play that sitting down and out of the corner of my eye seeing my husband smiling like a little freak on the side.
No,
Love
that was phenomenal. So that's on the new record.
Yes.
That's the only acoustic.
The only acoustic song.
track.
Yeah. I recorded guitar in another song that we had recorded 11 songs in total, but for vinyl time, we cut 2 out so that it would sound amazing. The vinyl geeks are saying that you can't have too much on there.
Well, there's a lot. Well, that's a huge. The resurgence
normal
of
thing.
LPs is really surprising.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place now, which is good, as it should be.
It's awesome.
So we've kind of walked through the present day stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the things about what this podcast is about is trying to help other creatives, whether they're, younger people, high school kids, college age people, or, maybe adults that are, maybe they work in an accounting firm and want to be a painter, or they want to do something else and completely break out of whatever their, reality they're stuck in is. Yeah. So I always like to spend some time on how you do what you do and what's required to sustain any kind of, career. I think people are always taken off guard by the fact that you really do live and breathe the work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I want Tom, I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I want to say before I am going to make you answer this, that I feel like with the arts, people often think that you work and then you make it, like all of a sudden it's just like, I don't know. There's a lot of hard work that goes into doing something artistic. And there's some people that, have a really successful breakout where they all of a sudden make it and can make a living instantly. But for, I think, the majority, you really have to put a lot of work into it. And there's times where it does not pan out, that you can't make a living off of it. It's really hard. It's really competitive, and you need to have a thick skin to do it. But I think being in a band is no different than, I feel like, owning some kind of business. I feel like it's really important for people to hear this, that I feel like for me and Tom, having this band is no different than us opening up a restaurant. You need to have insurance on your gear. You need to put a lot of money down to start. You need to own your instruments. You need to have a practice space. You need to know that you're going to be investing money into a tour should it not do well. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much it takes just to get started. They think that, they might record a demo and then go on tour and then be really confused why it's not working out. And for us, we love what we're doing so much, but we also know that it takes a ton of work, and it can also take a ton of losses to figure out how to make it work. And, I'm from New York. I've seen a million restaurants go up and go down. And I feel like that's no different than being in a band. It just, you really have to put everything into it. And you also have to be absolutely in love with it. Like, that's like the number one rules. You have to be in love with what you're doing, and you also have to be really good. You have to work your butt off and practice. But I've been chatting.
Yeah, I mean, to feed off what Carly's saying is, like, 100% right off the bat, if you don't love what you're doing, then you might as well just not do it. Like, especially with music. Like, if you don't love playing music and your main goal is to make money, then you're already failing. But I think for people who are in the creative field and want to become successful, I think it all depends on what your goals and your expectations are, first off. Like, if you want to make money and be a band and make money, then you need to, I don't even know. Like, it's not even what we got in it for. We got into playing music because we love doing it.
Well, I think, and I think that's absolutely the key.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways to commercially, make things work. If you want to start, an Allman Brothers tribute band or something, like, that's a thing now.
Absolutely.
That's an industry.
Yeah.
There are wedding bands that play, 8 to 10 weddings a month, and that's how they make that work. But I mean, primarily for totally original performers.
Sure.
That's really where we kind of live and breathe here on this show.
Yeah, I mean, bands I looked up to are bands that have like multiple albums, like 10 albums in their discography or 20 albums in their discography, and they make music over a long period of time. And like, I really see Slingshot Dakota as something like that, where it's like, we're a married couple and we can do music for the rest of our lives. And it'll, whatever form it takes, will take. But I mean, for what we do, and my advice to bands that want to do what we do, I would say do your research and see how you can do everything yourself as much as possible from the beginning to save money, and then so that you can use your money to like keep investing your money back into the band. So from the beginning, like, I learned how to screen print t-shirts. So then that was immediate money saver from the beginning, is like that we made our own shirts.
And that may not sound like a significant thing to people, but right. Because if you're even doing a limited run, it's, you're probably $10 or $11 a unit to do it right. And the printing shop wants you to order 500 of them. Right. Well, all of a sudden you're into it for a couple grand or $3,000 that you could have used elsewhere to, to do other things. So, I mean, attacking it on the overhead side is brilliant. I mean, that's really, like, I always tell people, it's not how much you make necessarily, it's how much you spend. So if you're making $1 million a year, but you're putting out $1.1 million a year, you got a big problem. Yeah. So it's really a expense side kind of.
And that's something
thing.
too that we've been, as we're getting older and we're seeing other friends or other bands, play really great shows or get on really great tours, we don't have any agent. We don't have any manager. We're doing this all by ourselves. And, sometimes you think, oh man, they're getting that tour, or, you kind of, you don't, we just compare ourselves in a very like logical way of, oh, let's see someone else's trajectory that we've grown up with who's doing kind of the same thing we're doing. And sometimes you think like, oh, they might be doing a certain thing, but they have to pay out more people, and they might, and everyone's journey is completely different. But it's nice that even from the get-go, Tom was printing our shirts. We were traveling in a minivan, so we had no, our gas was nothing. We weren't traveling in a van that we're traveling in now.
We booked
back then.
Booked all the shows.
Booked all of our shows. And I mean, also in the beginning, we were pretty much just playing as much as we could because we wanted to get better. We wanted to get more comfortable as a two-piece. When we first started, we wanted to figure out our set. I wanted to figure out my pedals. So there was a lot of learning to be done. And I think that's really important for people starting off too in music is practice a lot, and then also go open up for any and every show. And then once you start getting some kind of momentum, stop playing every show so that people want you to play those shows and that you're bringing people out because you're not playing every day. And then, when it comes to touring, like Tom was saying, doing everything as much as you can by yourself is so important, and cutting down your costs, going to a mechanic who's not gonna, overcharge you for your vehicle, or, traveling in a vehicle that's economical for you, and getting friends to record your demo that are going to do a good job, but aren't going to charge you a lot of money. So all the things that you can do by networking with your friends. And like Tom said, kind of looking stuff up and looking up where other bands that maybe you look up to, that where they've come from, and kind of looking at their past, and then kind of, talking to people about what the best route is. But I feel like the love in your heart for what you're doing is super important. And then just being active. And then like the next step is, okay, we're starting to get momentum. People are into this. Then pulling back, and then, figuring out what your next part of your journey is.
Yeah.
In terms of booking shows, this is something I think that a lot of bands have trouble with.
Yep.
Is it as simple as cold calling the venues? How do you attack that?
At this point, we've been really lucky to be on bigger tours where we've been the tour support. And through those tours, we've gotten all of those contacts for those venues. Some of those venues are way too big for what me and Tom would be playing on our own. So we wouldn't be booking the Metro, in Chicago, or like really huge venues that we've been super lucky to play. We would never play those on our own at this point in our career. But for the smaller tours, we have all the contacts. So we just write them ourselves. We say, ask them, the date that we're looking for, what the specifics are that we're looking for. And, if it's someone that we're not sure if they remember who we are, we might tell them what tour we were on, because especially with people that we meet, if they say we want you to come back, we want to remind them that they told us that, because they see so many bands every day. So we want to remind them why we want them, or why they want to book us again. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. I feel like, there's so many bands doing this. There are bands that just do cold calling, and it is really hard. But for me and Tom, the people that we're working with, we've kind of now developed a relationship with. So it's easy for us. And I think those relationships have been developed from us touring on our own, and also from being part of other tours, and then just meeting those people while we're there. But I feel like forming a relationship brand new with someone is really hard. But if you have the goods to back it up, if you've got other bands vouching for you in that city, if you have a band camp that's the best representation of your band, then you're going to be great. If you're, you've got really great feedback on the internet in whatever kind of format, I think you'll be okay. I think it's definitely harder for bands starting out to get those relationships and to get those shows. But that's why I feel like it's important for those bands to start as small as possible and take whatever shows you can get, even if they are bad, because you have to start networking and you have to start meeting people. It starts with meeting other bands when you're traveling. And, I can't even tell you how many shows we've played just to bands, when we were starting out. And it still happens. We still have duds here and there. And, I think that's part of this, is that not everything's going to be perfect. And the way that you handle that, I think, defines you as a person and as a band. But yeah, I think that's why a lot of people just go the booking agent route so fast, because they don't want to put that work in. They don't want to have those shows that kind of fail. But that's a huge part of growing.
But oftentimes, it's like it's such a gamble if you go the booking agent route right away, because you don't have that foundation of a core fan group. But if you start off small, like playing small clubs or alternative spaces like art galleries or house shows, you start getting people who are like true music fans that are going to these like really weird places because they love music. And then if they love your music, they will become hardcore fans of yours. And then they'll follow you along the way to like small clubs and then bigger clubs and, like performance venues and all that. But I think it's important to be a nice, genuine person and be kind to everyone. Like, be kind to the sound person, be kind to the promoter, be kind to other bands. And then through that, you can grow together. Like, we've played really small, crappy venues, crappy shows, and the only person that likes us is the sound person. And then we'll come through the town again, and the sound person will come to our show and bring people, or they'll ask the club if they can do sound for us at a different club because they like us, and then they do a really good job mixing our sound, and then people are like, oh, you sounded really great tonight, you didn't sound that good last time, or like, this is my first time seeing you, you guys sounded awesome. And it's because that sound person did an awesome job mixing you, and then we get more fans from that like little piece of magic happening.
Every single relationship matters. Yeah. It's super important to be the best representation of yourself. I think in life, but then also on tour, even when you're really tired and you might be cranky and you just drove a million hours. I feel like me and Tom, we meet everyone and we do our best to remember every single person's name. At least for that day, until we might forget it. But, it's exactly what Tom said. There was a guy, we played emos once, like the original emos in Austin, and we somehow got on a show that was a comedy night. So we had no business being on the show. The promoter wasn't even there. No one knew anything about us even playing. And so we were like, we'll just open and hang out. We have not, we're on tour. We have nothing else to do. And, I also remember the comedians were like super misogynistic and like just ridiculous. It was a very ridiculous evening, but we played, and the sound guy, who I believe his name is Jeff, loved us and was just like, why did you play the show? You're the best thing about this night that I'm working. And when are you coming back? Emos felt so bad and paid us like from their own bar, which was amazing. We're like, you don't have to do anything. We played, this was a weird show. We took a gamble, as you do on tour. It was really sweet. And then the next time he came back, the guy Jeff came. He worked another show for us, but then also has come on his own and just come to support us and has told his friends and brought people. And, it's crazy how it works, where you think you have a bad show. And some people just stop there and be like, tour's not for me. All these shows were bad or whatever. But it's like, if you keep, making friends with people, and what you're doing is actually resonating with people, like the art form is actually something that people like, it's going to start snowballing at some point if it's meant to be. But you also have to have an incredibly thick skin and know that it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. Even with a booking agent, like Tom was saying, you can get a booking agent who's still going to book you at whatever bars, but that doesn't mean that people are going to go. So not only are you booking, you're getting shows playing to who knows how many people, but then on top of that, you owe someone money for that show that may or may not have done well.
Or you can get signed to a big label and be the small fish in this huge pond of a label, and people think, oh, this band is huge, like this band is on a big label, we'll just put them on as the headliner. Like it happened to our friend's band. They got signed to a huge record label on their first record, and all the clubs put them as the headliner, and no one knew who they were, and no one stuck around for them. They played a headlining tour to virtually no one. So, I mean, it's like, I'm a firm believer in getting out there and just playing playing, touring, proving yourself on stage, getting fans that way, because those are the people that are going to be invested in your whole future, are people who are coming out to shows, who love live for our style of music in particular,
right,
who love live music, who love the experience of it. And, you know, that's the way we've gotten our organic fan base, I think, is through playing
I think
live.
you kind of figure out your crowd as you go along, and you figure out who, you know, what your audience is, what are the people that you want to deal with when you're going on tour, what promoters that you want to work with based on the shows that they're booking. And then, you know, you start looking up bands that you want to play with. You really just start making this like big network of friends, like organic network, not like on the businessy version of it, which obviously that stuff is really important. But for me and Tom, it's like we make genuine connections with bands that we want to tour with and play with, because there's some bands that we really like, but as people, we don't gel with them.
right.
And we don't, you know, it's not that we don't want to support them musically, but if, like, for instance, if there's bands that we see that are rude to the staff at a venue, I'm like, we don't want to tour with them ever.
Yeah.
Or do anything with them. Or if they're perpetually late or, you know, not adhering to set times and stuff. Like, that's stuff that we are just really strict about for ourselves.
Or they treat it like a competition, like a
Yeah.
battle of the bands. And I'm like,
It's not.
we're here, like,
We're all
I'm
here.
a fan of music. I'm just here to make friends and like have fun. And I feel super lucky to have this gift, like to be able to play drums and make music and stuff like that. And like, let's all be friends. But it's weird when people treat it like a competition. Like, that is just
Everyone's
not the way to
everyone's
go.
so different. So it doesn't make sense. I mean, especially for me and Tom, like we aren't competing anyone, because there's 2-piece bands out there, and there's definitely eclectic band formations. But I feel like for us, my brain's never even in that mindset, because we're doing whatever we do.
Well, and the thing that, like, personally, that drives me nuts is how prevalent that kind of philosophy now is. You know, ever since American Idol started and America's Got Talent and all these other shows, now people, you know, young kids, if you talk to anyone that has grown up in this worldview, maybe that, like, my kids are like 14 and 12, and they don't really know when that was not a thing. Like, that kind of predated them. So it's interesting to hear people who have this construct that, you know, well, if you can get on the TV show and then maybe you win, then something else happens. But like, there's enough experience now to know that even somebody that wins American Idol or whatever it is,
might never hear
they
them
might
ever
have
again.
one tour where the touring company owns everything.
Yeah.
You know, owns the songs, owns the performances, all the content, and then they just kind of fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you never hear from them again.
Yeah.
It's super damaging for people's, like, for creative people's psyche, for their mind, like, to, like, think that if they don't get this certain thing, then, like, what their talent is, it's for naught, you know, like, oh, like, if I don't win this contest or if I don't get signed to this major label, then, like, why even bother? But there's, like, millions of not millions, but there's, like, hundreds of bands, thousands of performers out there that are just doing what we do. Like, they just get out there and they go on tour, and there's no expectation to become humongously famous. Like, it's like chasing the end of the rainbow. You're never going to find it. Like, there's no pot of gold. Like, it's all, like, I feel like the major labels are like starting these competitions, these shows and stuff like that. And they're making people think, like, if you don't get signed, then you're nothing, or your music's nothing. But, like, it's like taking the joy out of what you do. You know what I mean? Like, making music is such a joyous thing to share to people. And, like, by putting, like, this money prize on it, I think it takes away from the specialness of it. And then I don't know.
No,
I don't know where I'm exactly going. It's just,
it's funny, because I remember when American Idol first came out, I remember my parents were watching it, and I was in, like, the heightened punk phase of my life. And I remember being like, what is this? Like, they can all be singers. They're all singers already.
Yeah.
Why do they have to win some? And I remember my parents were like, they're going to be the next big thing and they're going to get money and whatever. And I'm like, right, they can do this on their own.
Right.
They don't need to be on this show doing it. They can do this in real life.
It is ironic
crazy
that we're not in the old system where there were only a few gatekeepers,
right,
or tastemakers. Now you can record the record yourself, even with a fairly limited budget. You can still get a really high quality, highly engineered product that sounds good.
Yeah,
you can release. You guys, you're on Bandcamp.com, so go buy all the records. If you go on Bandcamp.com,
or just listen to them.
Here's why we like that service in particular, because if you buy music through the Bandcamp site, you're actually buying it right from the artist, and more of the net dollars go to the band. So if you're buying a track off of iTunes, I don't even know if anybody does that anymore. It's all streaming, but a lot of the other outlets like Amazon and iTunes, more than half the money goes to Apple or Amazon or whoever it is. So Bandcamp's a great site for indie bands because more of the money goes to actually support the people that are creating the work.
Yeah.
But for this game show kind of philosophy to take hold in this day and age where you can upload stuff directly to YouTube, you can reach people directly without any filter or any editing or any pressure from outside forces. It's kind of a paradox. I'm not sure why it's a thing, but it is. So
it's one of those things where, like, kind of what Tom was saying is that sometimes you think you need to get to point A to get to point B, like you need this glorious TV thing to get even bigger, or whatever the journey is in your mind that you think you need to get. Anytime that I've ended up thinking that way is when things go wrong for me, because that's never how I've thought musically. It's always me just creating stuff and then judging it on my own, being like, what's the best song, or what's the best version of what we've been writing. And anytime I get in the mindset of like, well, if we just had this, then that would ease this. And anytime I end up thinking that way, it like backfires. It's always when I start getting really upset about, I start really, being introspective about whatever I'm doing instead of just being confident about it. And it's crazy. And I feel like, with Facebook, for instance, there's so many bands, and you see now when we go on, I'm like, every band is on tour right now. Every single band is on tour. The pie is the same size and there's way more mouths now. But then, so it's really easy to get anxiety about that. But then on the flip side of that, there's all of these bands that aren't in this indie genre. Take literally any genre. Take metal, take Christian rock, take anything. There are so many bands that I don't know who are selling out shows, that are doing really great. I'm like, well, there's room for everybody, clearly, because I'm only looking at one bubble, the bubble that I'm in. I'm in the indie punk world. But there are all kinds of genres, all kinds of bands that are doing their things that I've never even heard of that are succeeding. So clearly it's possible for all these people to exist on planet Earth and make a living doing what they do. You just have to be really smart about it. You just have to really sort it out on your own. And with some bands, that means getting an agent or a manager. It just doesn't mean that for us.
Yeah. And there's some bands that get lucky. They make a really awesome song and it catches fire on the internet, and they become famous overnight, and then they go on huge tours and have an awesome career. I mean, there's just so many different ways.
Different ways. Everyone's path is so different.
Yeah.
We just try to not get, I think that one of the most important things to know is that what works for someone is not going to work for everybody.
Yeah.
So everyone's,
My number one piece of advice: stop comparing yourself to other people, because once you start doing that, you're just going to be in your head way too much over, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Why am I not getting what they're getting? Why are we not famous? Why do we not have 10,000 likes on Facebook?
Right.
Instead of going into the studio,
and doing it,
going into your practice space and practicing your instrument and getting better at it, so that when you get on stage,
You're
in
gonna
front
be
of people who
amazing.
don't know you. Yes, you're going to be amazing, and you're going to wow people. And then if people like you and you are your own genuine self and people like you for who you are, that's the success right there. They like you for what you do because you're being a genuine human being.
And this isn't to say that we haven't gotten into that comparing rabbit hole. We've done it all the time, and then we're like,
it's human nature.
yeah, it's easy to get in there, especially on tour, and you're on your phone. You're like, how did we do last night? Or I'm like, I need to just not be on my phone and just look out the window at the United States that I never get to see because I'm always in Pennsylvania. So it's really easy to get caught up in that.
You're always wanting that one next step higher. Always, always. And that's not a bad thing. Like, it's really good to want better for yourself, that you want to be able to pay your bills and keep doing what you love to do instead of, going on tour for 2 months and then coming home and working a really crappy job and then not, practicing. But, we keep getting better. We keep getting better tours and, making money, and we're able to cover our bills now and concentrate all of our energy on playing music.
Yeah. Also, too, like a big, I read Amy Poehler's book, Yes, Please, which is a really good book. I highly recommend it. Mm-hmm. And, reading about someone else's journey of how they got from, aspiring comedian or whatever to successful.
She's everywhere.
She's everywhere, and she's incredible. And I think that one of the things that she was writing in the book was that doing the thing is doing the thing. Talking about the thing is not doing the thing. Mm-hmm. Doing the thing is doing the thing. So me and Tom talking about how much we want to, do this one thing means nothing. We have to go practice. You have to go on tour. You have to get the record done. You need to get it out to people. You have to be active. You can't just want something to happen overnight. It definitely happens to people, for sure. It's something that, very lucky people can attain. But the general rule of thumb is that you have to put a lot of work into it. No doubt. Even if we spend a day just coming up with ideas that don't get used, I can still go to bed at night being like, oh, we worked. We worked today. We maybe didn't come up with the killer song of my dreams, but we worked. That was work.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not intrigued by these guys by now, I can't help you. But go to the show notes at creativeconfidential.net. Click on the episodes tab, and we'll have some embedded videos from you guys and links to the tour dates. Opening night for this swing is July 10.
So July 17th is the Square of Opposition's Anniversary Fest. That's going to be here in Allentown. Mm-hmm. And then the first day of the tour with Dikembe is July 18th. It'll be in Washington, D.C. I believe it's at Comet Ping Pong, which is one of the coolest venues ever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so get ready, Washington. They're coming. So this was a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah,
and we will help you. Not that you need my help. You're everywhere. I can't,
No.
We're not.
Get us everywhere. I want to go more places.
Okay. Well, then, in that case, we'll do our part. So thanks, guys. And
Thank you so
hopefully
much.
we can do, a part 2 sometime down the road.
Yeah.
And talk about more
We love
stuff.
podcasts.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Creative Confidential with Brian Tuck. To have Brian consult for your arts organization or to book Brian for public speaking engagements or personal coaching sessions, send an email to brian@creativeconfidential.net. That's BRYAN@creativeconfidential.net. To get future episodes automatically, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or visit us on the web at creativeconfidential.net.